So, gonna try and not waste time. We had 2 videos drop, and I'm gonna try and go over the first one really quickly because I didn't have time to go over it before, and then we'll get into the next one. I've got some notes over here, so we're gonna blast through that really quickly, and I'm only gonna go over pretty much just like some more important points for the first video at least. So for the new Hyper Talk, it was pretty much just the big points that, in my opinion at least, the double drop events, you will at least get 5 days notification going forward, so that way we'll at least know a little bit ahead of time. There were 2 new characters that were teased, and they will both be dropping on July 10th, so in just a few more days. They did confirm that in Guild Wars specifically, gear is in fact snapshotted, but the AI PvP still is not. As well as a new PvE mode coming out. I don't know if it's going to be this next patch, but a new PvE mode that will be coming out. The way they kind of talked about it, it almost seemed like, at least towards the end, that it's almost going to be like the guild boss, where you're going to be scored based on the amount of damage you do. And then the TLDR on the 2 new characters, we have, I'm going to butcher it, Fucho, that is a green unit, and then Nahor, who is a blue unit. Fuchu basically has some shielding, a little bit of turn pushing, and a little bit of healing, and then Nahor, what was it, he has like freeze, he can apply block, which is good to see. He also has a defense break, so that's an AoE, defense, and freeze. Anyway, I said TLDR. Basically, I don't think either of these units are game-changing. I do think that in niche or specific situations for different pieces of content, if you are missing kind of these like all-rounder roles for different things, that either one can be pretty good based on what you need. Nahor can be really good for Adoki, and Fucho, she's the one that I think is a little more interesting that we have to see once we actually get her into our hands. I think she could be decent for Doki and Tear. But we'd have to see. I'm not going to go any further in depth with them. If I do, I'll wait until the characters come out, and if people want to see it, let me know. Otherwise, I'll probably just glaze over them. Again, I don't think they're anything game-changing, but they can be specifically good for, you know, whatever you might need. Now, next was the, what was it called? I don't know. It was called like Etheria Meetup. I have it written down. It was like Etheria Meetup video with Jack, the game director of Etheria Restart, who sat down and talked with the community manager, who was kind of just facilitating conversation, bringing up the questions, you know, the talking points. And then the 3 content creators, Vulcan, Sean B, and then Jenazad. Sorry if I mispronounce it. I only had him written down as Jenna, so I was like, oh shit, I gotta find the full name. So I watched through the video and I wrote it down to like a bunch of bullet points that I thought were important or I wanted to go over. So we'll just go through those and then, you know, break them down if we need to. So first up was all of the content creators that were invited. They do enjoy the game, but I think they all seem to agree that the economy is bad, as well as parroted problems the community has brought up often, like gear, difficulty, a lot of different things. An interesting thing is that like the video itself was only like 45 minutes, but from what I've heard from other people, I think that watched these guys, that said that the interview went on for like 3 or 4 hours. So there's like a lot of cut content. So probably want to go check all those guys' channels out. I'm sure they went over the entire thing there and might have more details to share for you. But next is, this is big. This is big. More SR characters will be coming down the road, which we already do have leaks of Lightning. If I find his picture, I'll throw it up somewhere. But we do know that at least one other SR was planned, but I think a lot of the community at least was concerned that maybe more SRs weren't really going to be coming down the line because they aren't like big money makers, but they did seem to assuage our concern that more SRs are going to be coming down the road, which is going to be fantastic because a lot of us build out a lot of SRs, not only because they're really good, but because we now have like these 2 separate resources on the lattices, and it makes it easier so that way we can build out and fill up our rosters when we can at least kind of split up how much we're spending onto each one. Like you only get so many SSR lattices and you only get so many SR lattices, so it's definitely a great direction for the game going forward. Jack, the game director, claims that the new event Dreamscape will be the most rewarding event post-launch, but also states that there will potentially be choices where you can gamble your rewards for better rewards, or you can take like the safer path and get less rewards. This one just, it kind of feeds into the whole RNG thing I brought up in my video about the changes I'd like to see in Etheria, is that it's almost like a different form of RNG. So now I can gamble for the better rewards, which I guarantee everybody's going to go for these better rewards, or I can take the safe path and get the probably shitty rewards and go for the shitty path. We'll have to wait and see when it actually comes to it and the difficulty there, but I just think that a lot of these decisions are really just going to really nail this game down as like a niche game with a bunch of tryhards, and there's gonna be pretty much no room for new players or a casual audience, which is unfortunate, but again, we'll have to wait and see. I'm also curious, and I think he's setting expectations high as far as saying that it is going to be our most rewarding event or game mode so far. I'm just saying, let's take a look here really quick. I haven't touched it yet. I want to go through it all on stream, hopefully. If not, then I'll figure it out eventually. But in track, which we now have confirmed, does reset. This is if you finish normal and the hard track. That's 2 perfect lattices right there. So I don't know. You have to be pretty damn generous. So talking about economy, Jack stated that he wants to keep silver valuable and that people will be able to accrue these resources over time through events. And I think loosely mentioned that maybe that events will start giving more silver in general. Again, I'm going to reference my video again, the one where I talk about the changes I'd like to see. This is RNG. This is really the problem when it comes to these events. It's not that these resources don't necessarily exist. It's that it's not really possible to get them. Again, you can see here, I've gotten pretty fairly lucky this time around where I was able to actually clear out the lattice 4,000, get my summons for 300. That's 1,300 of the event currency. The event ends in 2 days now, so I'll probably be able to clear out the red shadow print and then maybe the stamina as well. But when we look at the rest of this stuff, like, sure, I'd love to get these like additional resources. It's not a lot, but it's going to add up over time. There's no fucking shot in hell I'm actually going to have the resources to get these. These other things are just way more scarce. I can't go grind and farm these things. I don't know if there's like some weird expectation that is being missed here, but nobody is buying this shit. Except probably like mega whales who are like, I can only get so much of this, and maybe they're grabbing this over other things. I'm not sure. That does bring up another point that I think they do mention that like some of their staff is like playing the game and running into a lot of similar pain points. So, you know, at least they seem to be somewhat in tune with the community on some of the things, but they're also going to be very biased. They help make the game, and, you know, they're a part of the company that is running and profiting off of the game. So, you know, but it's still like a lot better than I would say probably like most dev studios and publishers are willing to go for their games. So looking at shells real quick, shell pity is brought up that you would get at least 1 red in every 4 to 5 runs. So talking about shell pity, you'd get at least 1 red every 4 to 5 runs. At least it's something. He says mostly to combat like all the screenshots of people saying like showing like the 8 or 10 clears that they do on auto, and it's like all yellows. So I mean, it's something at least. But on this note, he also talks about swapping yellow shells for a shell that would sell for more shell experience. I forget what it's called, training materials or something. And although this is good, and it'll be a lot more useful so that way people can actually roll better stats on their already existing shells, this doesn't really solve the issue of people needing the good shells to get. You know, let me look at my currency real quick. Sitting on my currency, and actually before I even look, oh, I can see it right there. I was like, where did the number go? You can see I'm pretty much been sitting at cap because I'm too lazy to actually sift through. I mean, I could probably just like click like this and then just start trashing all of these, but I'm sitting on like cap shells, and I'm sitting on 11 million currency, which is a lot, but also isn't a lot. This is like enough for a few shells, I think, and then rerolls. Yeah. The point is the currency only goes so far and is only so useful if you pull a lot of garbage or things you just straight up don't need. So it's a good change, but at the same time, I think it would still just be better just to get rid of the gold shells entirely. I will say though that I see where he's coming from on some of these, or at least on this topic specifically. Because when it comes to shells, let me see if I can find like a good one, like this one right here. Here I have a gigabyte with Swift, Time Weave, and Ether, and this is a pretty damn good shell. As far as PvE is concerned, I'm not gonna find a much better gigabytes. You know, it's gonna depend unit to unit. But the point is that this is pretty permanent until they start dropping new shell types in general. But this is amazing, fantastic right here. I don't need to go and grind more gigabytes necessarily if I need to go find some other shells or specific shells that I need for like other roles like DPSs and whatnot. So because shells are a lot more permanent than say gear is all entirely RNG based. You can't re-roll it. Once it rolls shit, it's shit, period. A shell, if it rolls shit, you can re-roll it. The only defining factor really is the sets that it has, which again, you can just transfer the sets. So it is a tough balancing act as far as just like the currency goes, the drop rates go. So I understand that it's not the easiest thing to just, you know, hit a switch and everybody's happy. All right, next up are presets, gear presets. Ooh, we love to hear that one. So it talks about separate presets for PvP gear and PvE. This will be interesting to see how it's implemented, and does it end up clashing in any way between the two sets? We'll have to wait and see. But the big one, and I'm glad because I brought this one up specifically, is the formations, which is not entirely worthless, but it's basically damn near worthless. And he did talk about how he wants to now tie gear into team presets, so hopefully we can just swap teams. It'll move all of our gear. We can just click a button and boom, we have a team and gear all ready for whatever other piece of content we need to do, because teams are varying pretty much across the board. No boss to the next boss is really using the same team because they all need very different things. So that's amazing. That's probably like the best bit of news that I saw out of the entire video right there. Next up, and please ignore me dropping to gold 3. Let me see if I can show it off. Yeah, 13 days ago. I pretty much have not touched RTA since like the initial like couple weeks that I touched it, so I haven't touched it. I've just been playing Fearless. Fearless is fun. But enough about me trying to make myself feel better. Jack talks about wanting to balance RTA rewards more. So basically this is something that he wants to look at and change around in different ways, but he does say that it is difficult to do because there is going to be different players, and players are going to want to or will value different things over others. So there are going to be a lot of people who just straight up do not like PvP, do not want to interact with it at all, and if they change how rewarding it is, then it kind of forces people to think like, well, now I have to go do PvP, and some people just aren't going to want to do that at all. It's going to make them feel bad, and then, you know, they're going to want to play less and less because, you know, now they're kind of being forced into doing something they don't really want to do. But he does mention that he wants to probably reduce the amount of time in an RTA season. I mentioned it before, but I think it's like 3 to 4 months right now. Yeah, it's like 3 or 4 months for an entire season, so he wants to drop that down to like a month or 2, as well as potentially resetting these rewards more often. So if you don't really interact with PvP, you just get a participation reward for doing 20 matches for this season, but then this doesn't reset at all. So this page is just sitting here. It's a decent chunk of rewards, but, you know, especially funny for the first season for 4 months, and then this never resets is kind of silly. It is also interesting how he brought up not wanting to pressure players into doing things that they don't want to do. So it kind of solidifies that they seem to really want this game to be PvE focused and PvP focused, you know, kind of an even split, which we could definitely see with just how difficult Inferno content is as it is currently. So kind of interesting there. You know, I think players will feel pretty split on that kind of mentality on how they want to push the game going forward. Back onto RTA, Sean brought up a really great point, which was I don't know if you can, this is a pain in the ass. Let me see how many points I've done for the week without actually having to go into a match, but every week you can gain 2,000 points from doing RTA, whether that's Fearless or in the regular Summit mode. And he basically said that once you get your 2,000 points for the week, you don't really feel any need or desire to go back in and go push any further. You kind of just be doing it for the fun of it, which is fine, but it's not really enough to drive you to stick doing it for, you know, hours on end, or to want to keep coming back to it, you know, days throughout the week if you just, you know, are like me and you just get all your points done in a day. So interesting there. Again, though, I think that did fall back into the conversation of not wanting to incentivize it further, so that way players don't feel pressured. So don't think we'll really see any changes there. Up next, Jack brings up in-game events that might revolve around supporting a player of your choice in their upcoming tournament that will be hosted in Shanghai. I don't know when that is. I don't really know any details of this stuff. It's like the EW. Let me see if I can find it in the events page. I don't really know how to access news from anywhere else, but I think it's also like here somewhere. I don't know, man. I think it's this one. Something about the EWS. I feel like I've... this thing that they keep advertising. I don't really know any details about it, but cool. I hope they make that very visually clear whenever that's going on, and however you can watch it in the game, because I have no idea otherwise any details about it. But yeah, some kind of in-game events to try and get people involved in the actual tournament. And I think this is going to be a big one for a lot of players, and I'm sure everybody's already heard about it already. I don't know if they've already posted I hope they posted a news thing about it already. But double drop event coming this weekend, starting on the 12th, I think it is. The 12th, I don't know if that's Friday or Saturday, but on the 12th, and hopefully it goes on for the whole weekend. I don't think they really specified, but I assume they're going to be like weekend-long type deals. But on that, he did mention that he doesn't want them to happen twice in a month, and they want to keep them spread out and do them, and it seems like he wants to do them regularly every like 4 to 6 weeks, so we'll have that to look forward to, but no set times, but just at least, you know, keep in mind that kind of a space-time period. My only real additional note as far as the double drop events go is, again, I like to try and think about all players, you know, both hardcore and new and casual, is that not a lot of people have all the time in the world to dedicate a weekend to this stuff, so it would be nice to have that spread out more, maybe limit it in some capacity. I'm not sure. There's a lot of ways you can go about it, but it would be nice just to have a little more of an open period. That way anybody can kind of tackle these things as they want to, because at the end of the day, this is a mobile game. And then the last, as far as the important news, I would say, that Jack mentioned, he did apologize for not being very vocal post-launch, as they are preparing for the launches in other regions as well. Don't quote me on this. I'd have to double check the servers, but I think that the game is only out currently in like North America, and I don't even know if that's all of North America, but North America, Europe, and Southeast Asia. I don't even think it's out in China yet, so I think they've been gearing up for that in Japan and wherever else they plan on going, Korea, hopefully. That is funny to think about, and also important. I think I saw recently the classic gacha gaming, the mobile revenue wars, and I think Etheria Restart did 7 mil for its launch month, which isn't bad, not bad. That's pretty respectable, but again, also doesn't include many, I'd say, key regions, the biggest one being China. So that number still has a lot of room to grow once they start expanding into the other regions as well. But yeah, very cool to see that he addressed kind of the lack of communication, and I don't really remember if he said that that'll be changing going forward, but it seems like it's at least a good step, a good start in the right direction as far as opening up that line of communication with the dev team, you know, kind of their plans, their goals for the game and the player base, and yeah, just opening up that line of communication will be really good. And then last for me personally overall was just that Jenna seemed like a pretty wholesome dude. Sean B, I really appreciated his perspective on the game as a guy who's covered Summoner's War, I think, for like many years, so good to see that veteran experience. And then a Vulcan, you know, just seemed like a class act, so I think they picked a great selection of creators there. And it seemed very cool. Again, I don't know if I'll have links for them, but they're much bigger than me. You'll be able to find them pretty easily. Go check them out. I'm sure they're going to be putting out some videos going over that whole video again, and we'll be able to clarify and give you further details there. So overall, yeah, both pretty cool videos. I especially liked the Etheria meetup, or at least the whole premise of it. At least the details on it weren't really the biggest, you know, things in my opinion. They went over some things, but then kind of glazed over a lot of other big problems in my opinion. But overall, very cool to see those videos come out. I look forward to seeing more of those in the future, the direction of the game, and yeah, been having a lot of fun. So yeah, that's about it. I think I'll post a condensed version of my notes on both of the videos in the description, so you can kind of just glance over that if you want a TLDR for yourself. There were only like a couple of small points, I think, in like mostly the Hyper Talk that I didn't go over. But yeah, anyways, thanks everybody for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.